under God, indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all.
First item on the agenda is a motion to approve ordinance 2020-34, authorizing the mayor to transfer certain parcels of real property situated in the city's residential attached district to the University Heights City Beautiful Corporation for the purpose of facilitating redevelopment, and this is on emergency. Who would like to speak on this? Mr. McConville, you could. Mrs. Drucker, you could. Would either of you like the floor at this time?
Sure, Mayor. I'll jump in and let Susan add on to any of her thoughts or anything that I've missed. This is one of the last pieces that we have in terms of putting together the residential attached development. The transfer of the school board parcels to the city is imminent. The parties, as you know, are under contract for the transfer of those parcels. The title company has opened escrow. They've issued their title commitment. The city has indicated that there are no issues on the title commitment to delay a purchase and sale. And we are waiting on the school board to put their deeds in escrow and for the escrow instructions to be signed by the parties, and then we will close. We anticipate that that will happen very soon. So in anticipation of that closing, we want to be in a position where the city has authorized the transfer of the parcels to the CIC. Once that happens, once that authorization occurs, then the city can go ahead and transfer the properties to the CIC, and the CIC can in turn transfer the properties over to Kinez pursuant to the parties' development agreement. So that's where we are, and that's the reason for this request.
Okay, very good. Mrs. Drucker, anything you'd care to add?
I'll just throw in that Kinez has been anxious for this to be happening. They call me on a weekly basis asking for the status of this. So the only thing I may ask is, Mayor, maybe if you can call Jody Serini and kind of give the school a push that it is ready to build. And just so everyone's aware, little side note here, but all of the properties that have been transferred to Kinez for the single family lots are all under contract already. So they're anxious to get moving on this residential attached. They'd like to start the construction this summer. So the sooner we can get these properties from the schools, Kinez is ready to go. So they haven't actually started a full marketing program yet because they like to wait until they take possession of the properties. But as soon as they have the properties, we're going to see construction this year.
Okay, that would be fantastic. Very good. Very good. Are there any questions or discussion with regard to this item? Mr. Rock.
My question was, so I have 7 properties here in Exhibit A in the packet, and I just wanted to make sure that those 7 properties were the contiguous properties that we reviewed for the condo development. This isn't, none of these are the dry cleaners or the other parcels along Taylor Road that are already commercial businesses. These are all the vacant lots, correct?
Correct.
Because I didn't see a map or anything, so these parcel ID numbers were almost irrelevant to me because I couldn't look them up without the address. I just wanted to make sure these were the ones we reviewed as part of the main condo redevelopment project.
Yes.
I can confirm that as well, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And just if everyone recalls, there's 7 full properties for this that we transferred. The 6 that were between Wynn and South Taylor, and then you have the one house. It was a single family lot that lot is also added to that to make it the 7 lots. So the
That's the one on Wynn?
Lots on Wynn. And
okay.
so the school board had 4 of the parcels and we had 3. So we're upon receiving the 4 from the school, then we transfer all 7 to the CIC.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Is there a motion to adopt on emergency?
Mayor, can I just ask one question quickly?
Yes.
Thank you. So these do not fall under those requirements to notify residents or provide a certain time limit. I remember there were CIC regulations that came up in light of some of the other transfers. These aren't subject to that.
That is correct. There are no regulations regarding time that pertain to these parcels at this juncture, and the CIC previously voted to transfer these and in a previous CIC meeting. So really the only missing piece as far as business between the city and the CIC is for the city to authorize this. I'll note that back in December, the city previously authorized entering into the offer agreement for land to do this exact project, to acquire these parcels to do exactly this thing. So the community is well aware of our actions here. There've been presentations before the Planning Commission, before the school board, and before the city. This is just a ministerial act at this point.
Okay, so Luke, we don't have any obligation to notify any residents that live within a certain however many 100 feet of the intended build.
Well, currently we do not. The
Okay.
ordinance that would make that a requirement has not been passed yet. So if that ordinance had been passed, we would have that obligation in connection with this act. I think,
Well, can I jump in a second, Luke, if you don't mind? What we do, if everyone recalls, prior to any construction starting there will be another notification that for the residential, for the resident meeting that Knez is obligated to have with anyone prior to building. So that wasn't just for the infill housing. There will be a resident meeting based on this construction site prior to groundbreaking over there.
Okay, so what you're saying,
The notification took, the transfer of the properties and all the action took place prior to that CIC regulation and the new council regulation you put into place. However, there were notifications because of this going through the school board. There were public hearings at the school board about this. And then we had hearings at our level through our council meetings because of the school board transferring the property. So this was held at, we attended, the mayor, Patrick, and I even attended a school board meeting where there was a public meeting based.
oh, okay, it's just different from what I'm asking. What I'm asking
and
is,
that's because this took place. So, I mean, we were at that meeting, Mayor, I think November or December.
Yes, and we also went to Planning Commission and
Mhm.
planning, and because of the Planning Commission zoning change, everybody in the neighborhood got notifications then as well. That we
okay,
would-
that's what I'm asking, if every neighbor within a certain
They have.
square,
They-
got
Yeah.
it. Okay,
They
that's all. I just didn't want us to run afoul where people were saying, that they didn't get legal notice that this was going to take place.
Yeah,
That's all.
And there will be
Okay.
a resident meeting prior to breaking ground over there.
Okay, thank you. Thanks
Yes,
for
and I
clarifying.
thank you too, Susan, for reminding us of the process that we've already gone through. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Is there a motion to adopt on emergency?
So moved.
Very good. Motion by Mrs. Weiss. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Second by Mr. Rock. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll first on the suspension of the rules?
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Okay, and then on the main motion.
Mrs. Blankfeld,
Aye.
Mrs. Berry,
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee,
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss,
Aye.
Mr. Rock,
Aye.
Okay, very good. Motion carries. Next is item B, motion to approve the purchase of 6 months supply of PPE in an amount not to exceed $86,230.50. Chief Perko, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I hope everybody's doing well tonight. Just wanted to give a little history, I guess, on how we got to this PPE order. Obviously, everybody knows the fire department responds to fire and EMS emergencies, but some of the fire administration side of things obviously take a long look at public safety management and emergency operation planning. And coming into this position, I knew that I wanted to take a comprehensive look at all of our emergency operation planning, get things updated, and create some new additional plans. As we entered this, we had adopted a county hazard mitigation plan about 2 years ago. We've been working on a county and city evacuation plan. We developed a fire department emergency operation plan and a fire department continuation of operation plan. As the pandemic started, I was starting to scramble to get a emergency operation plan, a base plan in place for the city that was updated. And in the background, have been working slowly on a more comprehensive plan for the city that's updated. All of these plans and all this work basically falls under the FEMA guidelines and the National Incident Management System, or NIMS, and all their recommendations. Pretty much everything that the fire department does falls under that national response framework. So small incidents out in the field in the community, like a structure fire, fall under this, as well as large things like a pandemic across the country here. So when the pandemic hit, I started researching FEMA plans for a couple that I have written down here: COVID-19 pandemic operational guidance, strategic and operational planning for pandemic and influenza, and then the CDC and Homeland Security national strategy for pandemic and influenza. And so a lot of the number crunching that I did as far as the PPE that we're looking at here for tonight comes out a lot of the data in those various plans there. Many of them reference 3 planning phases of a 30-day, a 90-day, and ultimately having a 6-month plan as far as PPE goes. PPE can range from everything from masks that we're all wearing to things like hard hats and ear protection. Our immediate need here is a PPE related to COVID and keeping our first responders, service department personnel safe as a priority, as well as the rest of the city employees, and then those in the community and those that may be visiting, because we still have a need to have vital personnel come into our buildings and work on our equipment to keep us running. Unfortunately, we did not have a lot of PPE in a stockpile when this all started. Speaking for the fire department, we were kind of behind and a little bit unprepared for this. Fortunately, the county was able to assist us. There was a lot of maneuvering of different PPE in the region. The Cuyahoga County Fire Chiefs worked with the County Emergency Management Agency, and a lot of PPE was reallocated and distributed across the region, but especially to us. We've received donated PPE. We've applied for grant funding for PPE, and have done everything we could to keep us going, and that has worked well. Various guidance from the CDC, Cuyahoga County Board of Health has also assisted us. And that guidance is like, as an example, using masks that are expired. If that wasn't allowed, we would have had a much more difficult time getting through this. When they made the decision to use KN95s as opposed to just an N95, that assisted us. So things like that has helped us get by to get through this. We looked a lot at our burn rates and call volume. And as I indicated in the one memo that's attached from back in April, The whole event has been very fluid. The recommendations have been fluid, and our burn rate and our response has also been just as fluid. So it's very hard to get a factual figure of how many masks we would need based on a projected call volume in the future. We have not been using the masks as we ideally could because we've been reusing masks. In the beginning of this, each member in our department got issued an N95 mask, and they were to use it until they were in contact with a known COVID patient. Now we know a little more information that they may have been in contact with someone that was asymptomatic and just not known. And so we were trying to get at least a month's use out of those masks assigned to those people. And obviously that's not the risk that we want to try to take by reusing a mask that many times over, even though some of the recommendations allow for it. So this chart here on this memo in the Annex A kind of comes from an estimated burn rate of what we've gone through, an estimate of what we would have gone through if we had quantity of PPE in place to utilize it to best practices. So if we would have used a new mask for every patient, as an example, rather than reusing a mask per month. It also incorporates data that I've received from our police department as well as our service department. And it also accounts for some of the new guidance put out by the governor as far as masks out in the public and what we could expect with having to utilize more masks like surgical masks and offering those to vendors and visitors that enter our buildings. All of those estimates came somewhere in the ballpark of half or a little over half of the quantities you see in Annex A there for the 6 months stockpile. The reason that it's not half, and you see the quantities you see, so as an example, the N95, the quantity suggests 10,000. Half of that being 5,000, so on and so forth down. This total estimate was going to be roughly $69,250. So I think for $69,000, the quantities we would get at half of this would be sufficient for the 6 month supply. However, there's a considerable price break reaching these minimum thresholds listed here, mainly the larger ones. And for the additional little over $10,000 here, we can double our order and raise our 6 month suggested planning from FEMA to a 12-month, or account for any of these different variables with everything being so fluid. So that is why I made the recommendations here for the quantities that you see. So the total request here is for the $86,230.50. And it is listed through 3 different vendors. And that reasoning is because those were the lowest and best prices. These prices have been extremely volatile and fluid throughout this entire pandemic. The unit pricing listing here is the lowest I've seen it since I started really closely monitoring this back in April. In some cases, they were tenfold what you see here. So I do believe that these prices are much more in alignment with what pricing was prior to the pandemic. I'm expecting and being told from some of the various vendors I've been working with, which is approximately 9 of them, that they're planning on pricing going back up if the spike in cases continues to rise. And that is a reason why I'm coming to you now. I felt that the pricing had balanced, and I also wanted to wait until the city received the CARES Act funding. I knew that we were hopeful we were going to get it, but the PPE on hand was an adequate supply. I felt to wait and kind of take it as a month by month to make sure that we had this funding available before coming to you and bringing it to council. So happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Chief Perko. Does anybody have any questions for Chief Perko?
I have a couple questions, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I just am wondering if the pricing that we're seeing here is government pricing, or if we put these items out to bid, we do have a total here that exceeds 50,000, which is the revised code level. It exceeds 15,000, which is the amount we set by ordinance. Just wanting to make sure that we have some justification for expenditure of the funds without going to bid.
I know that the items from Cove Care are government pricing for sure.
And it would be the Cove Care numbers that exceed the 15,000. That is our local ordinance, or 50 by the revised code. The other items hit neither ceiling.
It is a project or a package, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. It is a package.
Can we approve it up to a certain dollar amount? And then that's council's approval?
Well, probably, but you'll only get a fraction. You won't get this pricing because, as Chief Puerco explained, to have done half of the Cove Care amount would have brought this total to $69,000 as opposed, or was it 69, Chief Puerco? It was about 10,000 less.
Correct.
So the price break happened going from 5 to 10. So we're not going to get this unit price below the 86.
Luke, if you could just explain, I mean, it's coming to council for approval. So if we approve it, why is the 15,000 coming into play?
Well, our ordinances indicate that we would,
Oh, you're talking about forbidding.
yeah, I'm talking about forbidding.
Right. And it seems to me there was I think one of the ordinances that we tabled at the beginning of the pandemic waived that, but that was tabled.
I mean, we often encounter situations where we are approving contracts that exceed the amount without going to bid because we're obtaining government pricing through some government pricing program.
Right.
And that is justification for legal justification for not adhering to the bid requirements. So if everything were government pricing, this would not be an issue. But to the extent that it's not, or we don't know, then I have a concern about, being dinged by the auditor on expending funds that exceed the thresholds without having gone out to bid.
Hey, Luke, I believe if the motion was made with the provision that council is waiving the competitive bidding requirement, then I think that would suffice in terms of what the auditors would be looking for.
Chief,
Okay.
you know for a fact that you said there's 3 different vendors, right?
Yes, and the one that listed Cove Care, I'm looking at the quote that says government pricing tax exemption.
And are you sure the other 2 are not, or is there a question?
It's a question. The one is Cerny Motors. They actually work on some of our trucks. They were the ones that we bought a large quantity of hand sanitizer from before. That's what this order is from them again.
Is it
I'm not so sure that would be under government pricing, but there again, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, the other question that always comes into play is whether the particular item that's being purchased is the kind of thing that you can go out to bid for. If you request bids, but nobody is bidding on your business, then once again, the public bidding requirements can be dispensed with. And I really don't know what kind of response you would get with some of these items, but the major expenditures here are government spending. So I guess it gives me a little bit of heartburn, but not too much if you want to waive the public bidding requirement as it relates to the last three items.
Luke, I have seen and read of situations where bidding was waived because it was COVID related and urgency was seen as necessary. I don't know what the legality is, but I've seen it, and I think I've read of that with other cities' business. So are you aware of anything like that where COVID can be the driving
Well,
force
exigent
behind that?
circumstances, again, are another rationale for dispensing with the public bidding requirement. But are these exigent circumstances? I don't know. That gets into a little bit of a gray area. I would prefer council waive the public bidding requirement formally than rely on an explanation that these are exigent circumstances.
Yeah, is there a way, if we decide to go that route, because I don't want to set a precedence going forward that we'll waive it just because it's a good price.
Is that a question? I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, is that the qualifier because of extenuating circumstances?
I think another qualifier could be because of fluctuating markets. One of the reasons we wanted to get this before you was because we were concerned about being able to hold this pricing. And in fact, we double checked this pricing just before this pricing was released to you to ensure this was still good.
I'm less concerned about the pricing than, because you can say that all the time, right? That prices fluctuate.
Well, prices do fluctuate, but this is a different market, and this is equipment that is directly related to the pandemic emergency. So I think the situations here are unique, and would be of little precedence.
I mean, I think that's a decent argument. I mean, the theory behind public bidding is you're going to get the best price for the taxpayer dollar. So if we're talking about the Cove Care items being government pricing, you've already been able to do that with respect to those top 5 items, which make up the vast majority of the overall expense here. I mean, you're what are you? You're close to 80,000, really, over 80,000, the top 5 items. So,
So because the top 5 items are the overwhelming majority and those are government bidding, I feel okay to waive the bidding requirement.
Okay. I do think that the suggestion made by Mr. Kennedy and Mr. McConville that we put that in the motion makes sense. Express waiver applicable to this particular proposal and limited to it. Is there a motion?
If the law director could clearly maybe make a motion, and then I don't mind, approving that motion, but I want to make sure all the qualifiers are in there.
Yes, Mr. McConville, would you feel comfortable stating a suggested motion so that Michelle could then perhaps, or Mrs. Weiss could perhaps then so move accordingly?
Well, sure, and I guess I would want to do some bootstrapping here and simply suggest that the motion be a motion to waive the public bidding requirement as it relates to the Annex A PPE purchase amounts totaling $86,230.50. That makes it clear that would make it clear that the public bidding requirement is just waived as to all of this unit pricing.
Okay.
I'll agree with that revised motion.
So for purposes of the record, the motion is to waive the public bidding requirement as it relates to the Annex C proposed PPE purchases in the total of $86,230.50.
So moved.
Okay, very good. We have a motion
I'll second.
by Mrs. Weiss, a second by Mrs. Blankfeld. Is there any discussion on this motion?
I wanted to say to the chief that, he's always so conscientious about finding the best deals and being proactive. And what really struck me in your memo was the discussion of, masks being used so frequently that they may break during a squad run, or, it makes more sense to just treat everyone that you come in contact with as though they may well be carrying COVID, and we have to protect you guys. So this is a smart move. Not surprising, you always do that. But I appreciate the due diligence you've put into this to make it the best use of the funds.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Blankfeld. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Well, then seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld.
Aye.
Mrs. Berry.
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Abstain.
Okay, very good. Motion carries. We are thus at the end of our agenda. It's a special meeting, so we are
Waive
unable.
the proof.
Well, that's just the waiver.
Oh, that's the waiver. Excuse me.
There's still agenda item on the motion to approve the purchase.
Okay, very good. All right. Is there a motion then to approve agenda item B, a motion to approve the purchase of the 6-month supply of PPE in an amount not to exceed $86,230.50?
Mayor, I'll make the motion.
Very good. Motion by Mrs. Blankfeld. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Berry. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll on the motion?
Mrs. Blankfeld.
Aye.
Mrs. Berry.
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Abstain.
Okay, very good. Motion carries. And now we are at the end of our agenda, and the only motion that appears to be in order would be a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mayor. Motion to adjourn.
Very good. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Rock. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Weiss. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Blankfeld.
Aye.
Mrs. Berry.
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee.
Aye.
Mrs. Weiss.
Aye.
Mr. Rock.
Aye.
Mr. Gould.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Be safe and be well. We are adjourned.
Right.
Bye, everyone.
Good night, all. Be safe.
Thanks.